Here's what we'll be covering today. So this is a lab that shows the deployment of an application. In our case, it's going to be a to-do application where you can put down tasks which you hope to carry out. This application is going to be deployed to Azure, utilizing the Azure App Service and also the database for storing the data. And we're going to use Azure SQL Database. Git Actions is going to be the main CI/CD pipeline that will be used to carry out the deployment of the application. The code is going to sit in the GitHub repository and be written on your local computer. So we're going to see how this is going to be carried out step by step. Okay. So now I'm in my Azure dashboard, and the first task would be to create a web app and a database. So Azure has this cool feature where you can do both at the same time. So that's what I'm going to do. So I'll just search for web app plus database. So you see it here. I'm going to select this. So this provides a level of simplicity. So off the hook, you can just create both. So I'll select my subscription. I'm going to create a new resource group for this. Call it. Okay, so this works. East-US is fine. For the web app name, you can choose whatever you want to choose. For my runtime stack, I'll be using .NET 7. For this, I'm going to select the SQL Azure, but you can see there are other databases, other SQL databases provided by Azure that you can also make use of. But I'll go for the SQL Azure. Then for Redis, you can also activate the Redis cache if you need it, but I'll just go for no. Hosting plan, we'll go for the basic hosting plan. So this covers most of what we would want to do. So right away, let's review and create this. Go ahead to create it. So we'll click on create now. So now it's currently creating. So the deployment is ongoing. Deployment has completed. So let's go to resource to explore the resources that we have here. Let's explore the resources that we have here. So you're going to see a couple of things have been created. So this is the application itself. This is the application itself, but I will want to take you to the resource group so we see what we have inside the resource group, because that would also help to show us what was created just by carrying out this action. So you can see we have an app service here and an app service plan. So the way I will usually explain a plan and a service is that an app service plan is like the physical server, while the app service itself is like the application running on the physical server. So the app service plan provides the app service with the CPU, with the memory, and all that it needs to run. And it's on the app service plan you can set things like firewalls, restrictions. That's where you can have your networking sorted, and all that happens at the app service plan level. And you can have multiple app service instances living on a particular plan. So this is the app service plan we have here. Then this is the app service. This is the actual application running here. And if I go to it, I would see a default page. Then similar to the app service, we also have something happening like that when it comes to databases. So here we have the database itself, SQL database, and the SQL server. So the SQL server, this is where the database is sitting on. Just the same, it's similar to the app service plan. So this is where you have the database sitting on, while the SQL database itself is the application or the database application that is running on the SQL server. And it's on the SQL server where that's where you can carry out management, access, to the database. And you can also have multiple databases sitting on a particular SQL server. So see the SQL server like your laptop, and see the database like an application you install on your laptop. Similar way, you can also see the app service plan as your laptop and the app service itself as an application installed on a laptop. So all these were created just by selecting the web app plus the SQL database setup. So yeah, a couple of things that were done here, which if we wanted to go into, that would be a complete lab on its own. You can see here a private endpoint. So a private endpoint allows for a secure access into your application or to your database at this point. So you can set up a private endpoint while creating the database, or that can be done automatically while creating a database, or you can create it separately and link it to your database. So the communication is not done over the public internet, but over a secure tunnel in the Azure network itself. So the private endpoint utilizes a network interface for it to be created. It has its own unique network interface, which is what you're seeing here. It's attached to the private endpoint. Then we also have a virtual network. So all the services we've created still need to sit on their own virtual network. And you also have a private link. A private link is very similar to a private endpoint, but different in the sense that it's the solution that gives the private endpoint the ability to do what it does. Very similar, but the private endpoint needs the private link to be able to communicate internally to Azure resources. So that explains basically what we have here, what was automatically created for us. So I'll go to the app service plan and let's explore what we have on the app service plan. So this will shouldn't take long to come up. So if I should come here, yes, it's going to show you the default Azure deployment web page because nothing has been done here, so it's going to give you the default page. Yes, so now you can see the website has opened and you see your web app is running and waiting for your content. And remember, we created a .NET web application, and you can also see that here. So this shows you that we are good and we are up and running. Now the next move for us will be to begin our deployment. So I'll walk you through that process now. Back here at the web app, I'm going to go to configuration, and here we're going to see some unique settings that would allow this web app to connect to the database. Now this connection can be set up. You can spin up a database instance and spin up an app instance and copy the database connection string and place it here. So that's basically what has happened here. But I want to show you that connection string, which has been automatically done for you. You can see it here at the bottom of my screen. I hope it's visible. Move this to the top. If it's visible, you can see Azure SQL connection string. I'm going to open it and you can see that connection string here with all the information that you need. Okay, so let's cancel out of here because that has already been done for us. Now, I want to show you the application we want to deploy. I have it open on GitHub. So this is the application here, which we're going to deploy. So basically, it's here operating on GitHub. So I'll just come right about now to my deployment center to carry out that deployment. Okay, so I'm at my deployment center now. I'm going to click on it. And within my deployment center, there are multiple ways which you can deploy to an app service. So this is one of the easiest and the way I would recommend. So you can see for your CI/CD, it's asking you which of this would you want to use to carry out this deployment. I'm going to go with GitHub. Okay. It's asking me to select the organization. I'm going to select my GitHub account. Then what repository? I have a couple of repositories here. So I will just look for the one that is relevant to this. And the branch would go with the main branch. And with that, we are ready to deploy. So all we need to do is to save. Now this is not ready yet. So I'm going to go to Visual Studio Code, where I have the application currently placed there. And we're going to begin to look at some of the code and where we can make the required changes. Looking at the code, there are a couple of things here. So this GitHub workflow YAML file contains the code for the pipeline. This is a YAML file, and how the deployment will be carried out. But that's not my primary concern. My primary concern is to check the app settings for the connection string name, because that name has to be exactly the same with what I have in Azure. Sometimes you see my DB connection there, so you have to change that my DB connection to Azure SQL connection, the exact name that you have within Azure, which I'm going to highlight here. That is fine. Come to program CS, also to ensure that we don't have anything that we're not supposed to have. You ensure you have Azure SQL connection string, which is also what we have here. And I would also love to explain what the workflow does here. So you can see the name is to build and deploy ASP.NET Core on push. So you can actually change this from push to pull request, to actually have more control, and that's what's recommended for production. So the branches you're referring to here is the main branch. Now it's going to spin up an instance. I'll call it a little instance, Ubuntu latest, and it's against this instance is going to carry out all the steps that you're seeing. So this runs on, tells you that I'm running on this instance. So for the steps, they are predefined modules, like the checkout module that GitHub Actions has. GitHub Actions is actually a very powerful CI/CD tool that I think a lot of people are sleeping on. So this shows you the .NET version. Now, .NET version clearly was expressed here, but a better way to do this would be to create a variable and to define it instead of hard coding it. So in a case where that changes, you don't need to begin to look for it in the code. So a lot of things can still be improved here. So carrying out a couple of installations here. So you're going to do a .NET build. To build, you're going to also publish, to create some deployable artifacts. Then you're going to install some packages that are required, .NET EF and all that. Then you're going to do a database migration, which is what you're seeing here. So you're going to carry out a migration, which is this line you're seeing. It's going to migrate the database into the artifact, and after that you're going to upload the artifact for a deployment job. And after uploading the artifact, the next stage would be the actual deployment. So just go through this. So for the deployment, the artifact has to be downloaded similarly, and then we're going to have to deploy this to Azure. So we'll need to specify the publish profile and all that. So this will automatically be created for you, the YAML file. Immediately you initiate what we did previously, just to bring that to your knowing. So that YAML file, you actually do not need to do anything. It's going to be automatically added for you. So there'll be some tweaks that you need to add, which the one I was showing you before was the finished YAML file. So I'm going to show you what exactly you would see. So deployment center, deployment we carried out here when we selected GitHub and all that, actually went ahead to create what you are seeing as the build and deploy YAML file. Okay, so but within it you also need to set up the database migrations and some other things, which I'm going to show you now. So those changes have to be placed under the .NET publish. So we're going to paste them here. So with YAML, you have to make sure your indentation, everything is top notch, which is what I'm ensuring here. As you can see, I'd specify the installation of the .NET tool, which will allow me to carry out the database migration, and I'd specify the version here. So I'm going to run my git add.